I had this crazy kind of back and forth argument with myself. Like, do you want to be an actor or do you just want to show off? Or, all this, I couldn't sort it out. And then I realized, no, this excites me. I'm excited by it. Hey there, Jim Meskimen here, and you are watching the Chronicles of Podcast with Tom and Jamie. I'm a voice actor. I'll be talking about my work as the genie and George W. Bush and John Gielgud, if you care about that. It's all in this interview. I think you'll like it, and they're great interviewers. So check it out. You might learn something. Is that so bad?
You have to start with Arnold because, he's the most impressionist person in the world.
Hello world, Wednesday 13 here.
Hey, this is Tom Stain.
Hello everybody, I'm Ronnie LeDrew.
Yes, my friends, my name's John Mahon.
What's going on everybody, it's Tom.
And it's Jamie. Welcome to the Chronicles of Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, nays and names, this week we are back with a very special guest. This week's guest has dedicated his life to entertaining the masses in as many different ways as he can possibly think of. He's not spinning plates, he's spinning the entire crockery cupboard. From doing improv on Whose Line Is It Anyway to holding down the law in Whoville to keeping alive everyone's favourite cartoon genie and much, 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 much more. Everyone join me, put your hands together for the Chronicles of Jim Meskimen.
Thank you. Spinning the crockery cabinet. Very nice. I like that.
Well, I went on your IMDb and it's like 300 plus. It's like, my God, does the man ever stop?
Yeah, just getting started.
How's your morning been so far? What you been doing yourself?
Oh, well, I took the morning. I slept in a little bit. I got a little bit of rest because yesterday I was ambitious and I got up before the sun and worked very concertedly all day. I do a lot of recordings. I do audiobooks. You're in my you're joining me in my Fortress of Solitude, my sound booth, where I do audiobooks and commercials and animation occasionally, and all kinds of projects on my own. And so I'm in here a lot. And when I'm not in here, my daughter is, because she is an accomplished audiobook narrator, Taylor Meskimen, and so she and I vie for booth time.
I like drool it out.
Yeah.
You can't see the schedules on the outside of the door. Like,
Yeah, there really should be. That would be a very organized way to do it. Only it's usually, Dad, I just got an audition. Are you using the booth? I'm like, well, I just got an audition too. But you go ahead.
So I was going to say, you got to do the parenting bit and be like, encourage the daughter to go out and make her.
She's taking full advantage of that. So
Jim, how we like to start these things, we like to take them right back to childhood, back to the days of young Master Meskimen, you could say.
Yeah, no, that's not how we're going to do it, but it's a good idea. I see why you're...
see how we go. What did you want to be when you were growing up? Has it always been entertainment for you, or was it something completely different?
Well, as anybody who's ever heard me interviewed before will be bored by, I first started out as a visual artist, and so my early identity, really just past toddler, was as a painter, a visual artist, cartoonist, things like that, and that was what I mainly spent my youth kind of indulging. It was my interest in drawing. I read Mad Magazine, which I don't know if you had that in England, but we had it in America. And it was a satirical magazine with an awful lot of amazing cartoonists that I still respect. And I would try to draw like them, and I would try to draw things that I saw and communicate ideas that I had in my head that way, dramatize characters, basically, which eventually it dovetails into acting and impressions. And I'm sure a lot of the people you've talked to, if they've been in the voiceover trade, a lot of them are visual artists or musicians or, creative people in that way that can conceive of character in a lot of different categories. And so, but I focused on drawing and painting, and it was a nice place to start.
Because didn't you work for Hanna-Barbera at one point, doing
I did
in animation?
I did. I worked for Hanna-Barbera, and they were not in their heyday, but I definitely, I had an office job. I went in and I drew pictures and helped with storyboards. I mean, I really just kind of helped. I wasn't trained. I didn't understand much about storyboarding. I knew how to draw. I knew how to fill in things and draw figures. And But there were amazing people there. Dave Stevens of Rocketeer fame worked there at the time. Tons of other people that have gone on to do great things. I didn't last there very long. I went back to college, but I got my first taste of it. And I guess what I always objected to, and later when I worked for Rankin Bass too, I had a desk job basically, even though pretty nice desk job. I was the only artist at Rankin Bass that was working on premises. Most of the work was done for Thundercats on the Pacific Rim, or in the Pacific Rim. Maybe not on the rim, but close to the rim. You don't want to get too close to the Pacific Rim because when Godzilla comes, it's very, very awkward. And I just felt like, after about a year of that, I was like, the sameness of it all, the sameness of the hours, the sameness of the sitting and the personnel even, and they were all great people, but just the sameness of the paycheck. It was all just wearing me down. The rest of my life has been, God knows what I'm doing next week, and I'm fine with that.
It's I guess it's kind of exciting in a way, isn't it? It's like, what's happening next? It's not that same thing every week, every day, every week, like you say.
Oh yeah, no, it can be very exciting when you get a lot of stuff going at once. It's like, oh wow, these are all great opportunities. How are we going to fit all these in? They don't care, that I have two other jobs that day. I got to somehow make this work. It's fun.
Just quickly going back then, did you say you weren't trained in drawing and stuff like that? So how the hell did you get into Hanna-Barbera and Rankin and Bass and stuff like that?
Well, I trained myself to be a cartoonist, which is not heavy lifting. At least it wasn't for me. But, you copy things. There's plenty of people that sort of, because if you go to public school as I did, and you expect any kind of art training, forget it. It's not. It hasn't been even in the '60s when I was going to kid. I'm sure it's worse now. There's just absolutely nothing. Now, of course, you have YouTube. You have a lot of methods of getting trained. But I just drew all the time, and eventually I got pretty good at it. And I was better than most kids in my class. Then a lot of what passes for talent, I think, is this factor called interest. How interested is one? And I was just really interested. Part of it was that I was kind of introverted, like to be alone. And part of it was just like, God, I think this is cool. When I look at a cartoon character or a drawing of Mort Drucker's or I don't know, any of these great comic book artists, and I look at them, and it gives me a little bit of something. It gives me some excitement. It gives me some feeling of emotion, an aesthetic appreciation. And then I'm like, God, that's kind of magical. I wonder if I could do that. How would I do that? And then you try it, and you go, this isn't that easy. This is kind of hard. And then you work on it for another 5 years, and you're like, okay, well, I kind of, this isn't bad. But what about this effect? Ooh, how do you do that? So it's interest. Maybe I have a little talent. I don't know. My grandfather also could draw pretty well, but he must have been interested. That's the way I look at it. I don't know. Talent is one of these things that gets flung around a lot, and I don't know how much it helps you. You can't look at someone and go, he's got drawing talent, or he could be a pole vaulter. Oh, you can look at a guy and say, he'd make a great footballer, but that's a physical thing.
Yeah. But even then, he might look like he could play football, doesn't mean he can.
Exactly.
If he doesn't care about it.
Yeah. Oh, you've got glasses. You could be a scientist.
I couldn't. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But obviously, you mentioned then, like now you went into the world of acting. How did that happen for you? Did I read it was a meeting with Harvey Keitel that inspired you or something?
Well, it tipped me over at a certain very significant point in my life. And I'll tell you the whole story. So I was, and it's a sobering story. It's a cautionary tale. Okay. And I'm going to be on full disclosure for you because I like you blokes. I think, I think the world of you. We've known each other for 7 minutes. So I feel like I can share everything. Anyway, I was living in Spain at the time. I was studying painting. I finally got some training from a really amazing Spanish master, a man named Miguel Arguello, who's no longer with us. And he invited me to Spain. I went a couple of times. I lived there for long stretches, almost a year at a time. And in the countryside, very isolated. And I studied diligently old master oil technique. But it was very, as I say, out in the countryside, very isolated, very quiet. We lived in a house that was built in 1510. It had no plumbing to speak of, no phones, obviously no television. So, it was a little monkish. And after a while, I was feeling very introverted and very shelled. And, the part of me that wanted to be a performer had been sort of subsumed and covered up. So, and I had been in my teenage years, I had been indulging in what were illegal substances and possibly still are here in Los Angeles, but I don't know. And that was confusing because that's sort of the net product of drugs is confusion. That's about the best they have to offer. They can call it different things when they market it, but at the end of the day, it's confusion, if not worse. So I was a confused young man. And then I had this kind of lockup of a bit of a problem, very personal problem, which was like I wanted to be an actor, I wanted to be a painter. I couldn't see how they really. It had to be one or the other. I felt like, nowadays I think you just do both. Do some at night and some of the day. But at the time it was like, oh, this is a very important decision that has to be made. And I couldn't make that decision. And so I carried this problem around like a rock in my chest. And it wasn't until I got off drugs and started to look at the world as it actually is that I eventually began to work my way into a solution. And it came to a head on the streets of Madrid as I had moved out of the countryside, moved into the city, stopped painting for a while and just could get out of the area. And walking down the streets of Madrid, ran into Harvey Keitel. He was there shooting a movie, fortuitous meeting. I obviously recognized him. Not everybody did. I recognized him. And I stopped him and talked to him a little bit. And when we parted, I realized I was having quite a reaction to that meeting. My heart was just going. And I had the presence of mind because I sobered myself up, that I was like, this is significant. I really am affected by the fact that I met this actor, and I respect him as an actor. It's not that he's a famous person. It's that I've met lots of famous people, but this excites me. And noting that, I realized, oh, well, that's what I should probably do. And so this problem that I had just sort of went, oh, okay, now we've got a clear path. And at that moment, I decided to go to New York. And within maybe a month, I moved to New York and got started. I still supported myself as an artist because that was my skill. And I could earn money better than waiting tables or something else. So that's the story. That's the Harvey Keitel story.
He was very nice, Harvey Keitel. He's terrific. I still do a little impression of him today. He's a fantastic actor. And I would love to meet him again someday and thank him. It hasn't worked out, but maybe one day I will.
I mean, I thought with obviously your mum being in the business, I thought that performing would have maybe been more inevitable, that you would have gone down that road. Or did you feel like you wanted to rebel against it almost? That's why you went painting and drawing?
As I say, I was very confused.
Yeah.
I was confused by my mother's stardom. Not that I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, oh, where are all these limousines coming from? It wasn't that. It was that I was confused and like, well, why does someone want to be an actor? Do they want all the glamour? I don't care about the glamour, or I shouldn't care about the glamour. I care a little bit about it. It looks like it's fun, but it doesn't seem honorable to me. I had this crazy kind of back and forth argument with myself. Like, do you want to be an actor, or do you just want to show off? Or all this, I couldn't sort it out. And then I realized, no, this excites me. I'm excited by it. And it is honorable. I think at its best, acting can create an experience that's transcendent. When I think of the great performances that I've seen, that I love, that I continue to be inspired by, I wouldn't trade that for anything. I've seen a lot of garbage performances too, but that's not what I aspire to do. I aspire to do something that will affect people in a beautiful way.
So, according to the fountain of all knowledge known as IMDb, your first project was voiceover work on 2 episodes of the comic strip. Is that actually correct, or was it something else before then?
Well, they IMDb omits a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I know.
I did do some, like the commercials, for example. They don't have commercials on IMDb. I did tons of commercials, I did commercial campaigns and promos, and the first job I did indeed was I think some promos, some impressions of movie stars, old movie stars, for what was called American Movie Classics at that time, which was like TCM is today. And yeah, so I did like Orson Welles and Jimmy Stewart and Henry Fonda, maybe, I don't know, a bunch of old-timey guys for like $300. But it was like, oh, what a breakthrough. I'm getting paid to do impressions at a microphone, a real microphone in a real studio. It was very exciting. Then I had a steady gig with my improv company that I was with. Even before I think I did the comic strip, we did a weekly news program out of New York that was they would take the cartoons, the political cartoons of the day, and kind of animate them. Not really animate them, but they would zoom in and out and, show you Reagan and Brezhnev and these different politicians of the day. And we would create the voices and read the gag of the cartoon. So that was a steady gig that I did like every Friday for, I don't know, a few months or so, or 6 months maybe. And those were the first. And then the comic strip came about. It was a Rankin Bass series, and I was another really lucky break. I've had many in my life, and this was one. So I worked as a character designer for Thundercats. I did all of their secondary characters, designed those, and weapons and vehicles and stuff, crazy animals. Then I went after I had the wearing kind of experience of, oh, this is a desk job and this is kind of killing me. I said, look, I'd like to quit, and I'll work for you freelance. When you need me, I'll come in, or I'll do stuff at home. And they went, well, that's fine. So I was working for them freelance in probably 1986, and they said, hey, they had a nice by this time they had a nice studio for artists. When I worked for them before, it was just crappy office. But then they built a nice studio. I was working at the nice studio as a visitor, like, oh, this is pretty. I never would have quit if it was like this. And they said, hey, Jim, we're going to be auditioning some actors for a new series, and if you want to come down, they knew I was an actor. They said, if you want to come down and audition at 4:00, just go downstairs and you can do that. I went, oh yeah, sure. So right next to me on the bookcase, there were recordings of all their shows that they were working on. So I had my Walkman, and I plugged in these cassettes, and I listened to the style of performance of the Rankin Bass shows, because I'd never really watched them. The TV reception was terrible in New York. I never watched Thundercats. But I listened to their shows, and I was like, and I'm a mimic, so I'm like, oh, okay, this is the level of things. The old man is like this, and the young hero is like this, and the crazy creatures are like this. And I go, okay, and I'd listen to that for 2 hours while I'm working for them. Then at 4:00, I go downstairs, and they've got a mic set up, and I read a crazy old man and a funny animal and a young hero and blah, blah, blah. And they go, thank you. And I went, thank you. And I went back to work. And then about a week later, they said, okay, so you booked that. And I did 65 episodes of 2 different series within that comic strip thing. It was a game changer for me in a lot of ways. And the best thing about it was I got to work and see other professionals who, the men that are now my age, but at the time they were impossibly old. And I watched them and saw their chops and saw how they worked and saw the flow of how it all went and the procedure and so forth, and auditioning for different characters within the session, and what it took to be a real professional cartoon voice animation guy. And I realized, boy, this is the job. It's not the drawing for me. No, yeah. I want to be in front of the mic. And here I am. Testing.
It's still on. The old dudes. And what's your process for, because obviously you can mimic and you can do so many impressions now of so many different people. Do you have a process to it? Is it like, oh, I really want to try and do this person now and that sort of thing? How would you actually go about doing it?
No, it's more, I wouldn't say it's a process, but I am facile, because I've done it so often
Yeah.
to, um, well, like when we just picked up the Zoom call, the very beginning of the Zoom call, I immediately started speaking in an English accent because I could tell it was you also from London or wherever, and so that sort of thing I can just sort of jump into, and actors can do that, right? So for me, it's like, well, this is this well-oiled machine I have, but it has limitations, it has parameters. I can't do lots of different voices. I don't have a very deep voice. I don't have a very high voice. I have kind of a nice mid-range voice. There are certain accents I have not mastered yet. I know I could if I needed to. When I want to, I mean, there is a bit of a process. If I want to say play a certain character, somebody said, "Hey, can you do this actor? Can you do this character? Can you do this accent?" Excuse me. I will listen very avidly, and I think I'm a very careful listener at picking apart the nuances. And it's an almost an automatic sort of function. When I hear something, I can sort of feel what I would need to do to make that sound.
Hmm.
It's almost like it's a very grooved in line. Uh, and conversely, I can hear someone go, "Nope, can't do that." Uh, I can try, but it's going to sound embarrassing. So the ones that I can get close to, I go, "All right, that's interesting." Some voices have peculiarities to them that you have to kind of listen a little carefully and go, "Well, why do they? That's odd. What is it? That's interesting. Why do they say that?" We're all so different. And some of us grew up in a household that spoke a different language. Some of us grew up in a different country. Some of us have moved around a little bit, and our voice gets kind of, molded by those experiences. Um, so again, it's an interest point for me. It's not, I don't lean on my talent. I lean on my interest. Like, I get curious. Why? That's interesting. Why do they sound that way? Where is that sound coming from? And I've isolated for myself lots of different ways to kind of hone in on things. You can't ever really completely duplicate another voice unless they're in your family or genetically you're super close, but you can come close. And for the purposes of most of my work, close is close enough. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like, no, we need dead on. We got to fool everybody. This actor's not available to do this thing. And it's a line we desperately need, and we don't want to tip the hand. And those kind of jobs, I think, will probably go to AI very shortly if they haven't already gone. Because when you're talking about it, well, it has to be pretty, defendable.
I mean, they've already done that. Is it James Earl Jones sold the rights to his voice?
Did he?
I
Good for
think
him.
so.
Good for
Memory
him.
serves, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously.
But Fred Tatasciore does a great James Earl Jones.
Is
He's
there
the
any
guy.
for...
He's the guy that does it for Disney. Anyway, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you're saying then like some people you just can't do. Is there anyone you've really wanted to be able to do but just couldn't nail it?
Oh, many times, many times, many. Yeah, I'm still working on people that I just love the way they talk. Like and here I might be able to do it a little better than normal because I'm just getting over a cold. But the great Orson Welles, I'll creep in closer to my podcast mic here and try to duplicate. There's something about the raconteur personality of Orson Welles that I'm afraid I'm quite seduced by. So the rest of my life I shall be endeavoring to sound as much like him as possible.
He does have a damn great voice, to be fair. I can get it.
It's just great. It's like, God, if you could talk like that, I would just walk around and tell stories all day.
I mean, I was watching the Instagram videos that you and your daughter do, and there was one that I had to watch over and over again because I loved it, which was Patrick Stewart spying on the neighbours. I thought that was absolutely fantastic.
Yes, I can't remember the joke, but I do remember Sir Pat. It's hard to forget. Now Sir Pat, I do a younger, more robust Sir Pat. Recently I've heard him, and he's getting quite along, isn't he? And a little more frail, almost not quite sounding like John Gielgud. John Gielgud, of course, sounded like this, I think, a bit more, and contained his voice in the wonderful chamber of his noggin.
Almost like Nelson Mandela, but not so far.
Superb. But who comes up with the ideas for that? Does your daughter come up to you and go, "This is what I'm going to ask you"? Just go with it like an improv
No,
type
no.
thing.
It's she doesn't prime it. I mean, we just we know that every couple of days of the week we have to go out and get into some production and lay out a bunch of videos. But what we do is we walk around. Like yesterday, we walked around our neighborhood. Often we just walk around the garden, and she'll pounce on me. She'll say, "Hey, Dad, do Colin Firth, wishing somebody a happy birthday," and I'll do it on the spot. We're improvisers, so that's more comfortable, frankly, than saying, "Oh, Dad, here's all your scripts for today, Dad." Like, I'm gonna work on this. I don't have time. I have time to improvise. I don't have time to learn little parts all day long.
It's amazing because I was looking on your website and it's like you can do over 65 impressions, including Flipper. And I was like, is it? Is there like
Flipper is still is Flipper still alive? I wonder.
I don't know, should know. Is there any that you're particularly proud of though? These voices that you've managed to nail.
Oh well, when I get them good, and I'm proud. I'm happy when an audience responds well. When they go, "Oh my God," when they have that, when the magic trick comes off, because that's what it is to me. It's like a kind of a magic trick. The guy wasn't here. All of a sudden, Tommy Lee Jones shows up. You didn't even know where he walked in the door. You didn't hear him come in. He may leave just as quickly. Probably will, because he'll get bored as hell. And then, Colin Firth steps in, and all of a sudden, you have to deal with the strange transition of one to the other. It was very off-putting, I think. And then George W. Bush shows up, and you're like, "Oh, whoa, who let the dogs out?" So it's just fun. It's fun to do. So that's what I'm proud of. I'm proud when I can make you gentlemen far across the pond. If I can make you laugh, smile, what could be more wonderful?
Absolutely did. 100%. But obviously, you said at the start like you wanted to get into acting. Was it you wanted to get into any form of acting, like voice acting on screen, or was it I wanted to be an on-screen actor and the others just sort of happened?
Gee, I'm trying to remember. In the beginning, I was just trying to support my staying in New York City, which I thought it was expensive then. Now it's astronomical. So I thought like, well, I'm, excuse me, I'm a bit promiscuous. I like all different kinds of performing and all different kinds of expression. And so, that I see something compelling on stage or on film, and I'm like, I'd like to do that, I think. I'd like to try that. Like you watch stand-up comedy. I'm not a stand-up comic, but I've done it here and there. But when you see a real good one, you're like, I wish I could do that. I like that. I wonder if I could do that. And so I've been lucky enough to have the opportunity to try, do various things, been in big movies, been in plays. There are certain things, though, that I just sort of gravitate towards, and a lot of animation, I like the illusion of creating a character just vocally without there being a picture, so that you're like, oh, well, maybe that is that person. I did Colonel Sanders for a long time for the Kentucky Fried Chicken people. Or they're not chicken people, it's a company, you understand? And, they would generally not show me on the camera at all. For about 7 years I did this. They would show hands preparing chicken with the white sleeves and so forth. And that kind of thing. Hand washed and hand breaded. And I like the fact that people thought, oh, maybe that's Colonel Sanders' voice. Maybe he still exists.
I know I mentioned at the start like over 300 odd credits, and that doesn't include commercials and all this sort of stuff. But do you kind of like the fact that you get to try all these different things, learning new things from different sets, meeting all these different people? Or do you wish you'd sort of been, I don't know, like I've been in this movie and like as big roles? Does that make sense what I tried to say? I feel I lost myself on that.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, I mean, I for better or for worse, that's how it's evolved. Sometimes I look at performers that do one thing so well that that's all anybody wants to buy from them, and they are making a fortune. And I think, well, that's another path. would that have, I don't know what I have. Apparently, nobody else does either. That is so singularly marketable and satisfying that I can just churn that out all day long. Instead, like you said in the beginning, spinning plates is exactly how I feel like my life is. And I don't know what people of your generation even understand spinning plates as, but there used to be a guy who had an act on the Ed Sullivan Show, and perhaps there were others, who would set up bamboo sticks. He would do this to some, like the Flight of the Bumblebee or some kind of rapid orchestral piece, and he would put a plate on top, obviously specially designed plates. He would get it spinning, and it would stand there and kind of rotate around on that bamboo rod. And then he would get a bunch of them going. And of course, they would start to lose their traction and, slow down. And he would go back and spin them again. And he could get them all going. He could get 8, 10 of them going at once. And that's what an actor like me does. He's like, okay, I've got the commercials here. That's good. A couple of those are going good. That'll help fund this play where I'm not getting paid a dime. That's good. And then, somebody wants me to do a script reading. Yeah, I can do that on Saturday morning. Yeah, sure. And then, oh God, a movie audition came in, so I better handle that. And but don't forget about the commercial people, and get to the rehearsal. And it's a frantic wonderfulness to it. Some people I think are very comfortable with that level of random activity. Some are very uncomfortable with it. And I know a lot of people that would not want to do that. It's a little like being in sales, I think, of not knowing, boy, I got 10 opportunities to talk to people today, maybe more. Maybe I'll sell something, maybe I won't. I'm going to work and hustle and try and serve them so that I make, God, it'd be great to make 3 sales today. 3 out of 10 would be amazing. So that's the life, man. But it is fun. But if like my friend Nancy Cartwright, Nancy Cartwright of Bart Simpson fame, massive Bart Simpson fame, shall I say, and enduring and probably immortal. She was a young person who really wanted to be an animation voice actress. She also did some TV and film, but that's where she really lived. And then she got the best job in history. And for 30, I don't know, you probably know, 30, how many years? 30 something, 35, 36?
That's nearly 40, I think, isn't it?
Nearly 40 years.
Yeah.
Plowing that fertile field. And who can argue with that? That's spectacular. The world thinks that's a great idea, and they respect Nancy, and she's a doll, and she's an amazing person. So that's another path if you can do it. But I think there are a lot more of us out there spinning the crockery around on bamboo than people like Nancy going into 20th Century Fox and pulling down a cool million or so every week. Respect, Nancy. Respect. I'm going to be on her podcast next week. So
amazing.
Yes. I'm just a bit of a podcast whore.
Obviously, you mentioned there before about stand-up comedy. You do your Jim Impression shows though. So where did the idea to do this as a show come from?
I've done live shows ever since I was in my 20s, and I think it's a fun challenge. I saw somebody else do it. I went, I wonder if I could do that. That looks like it would be fun to do. So I did it very low level at my church, just for a dozen people, and then I would do it every now and then, and it brought out a level of commitment. You have to get it right the first time. You have to entertain people that you're looking at. You have to see your audience. It's very different from other art forms where it's like, I've never met my audience, like the video game world. I mean, I've met them at cons, but when they consume my performance, they are in a different time and space entirely. And I have no real good idea about what their reaction is at all. So doing a live show is very different. You hear immediately, did they get that? Did they like that? Did they think did that not pay off? And, and you can sing, I can do whatever I want. I can control the whole content, the environment of it. And if anybody wants to see my live show for free, in your audience. I don't know if they do or not. But if they go to jimmeskimen.com and send me an email and say, hey, please send me your live show, I will send them a link to a video and they can watch it, and you can too. But you have to say, please send me a link to your Jim Impression show or your live show, and I'll get it and I'll fire you back a link. Free.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
That is incredible.
It's incredible bargain is what it is. I mean, think about it. Just giving it away.
Oh, you gotta do. Make sure you say please, though, guys. Make sure please. Yeah.
But one rule. Keep the manners in, yeah. Yeah. It was your mother taught you.
You've got your celebrity fortune cookie show that you do on your YouTube. You have the live celebrity podcast where you were using your phone to call people up, and your Jim Impressions live. And you were also on America's Got Talent.
Oh yes, 2013. That's 12 years ago now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, quite an experience. Wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but yeah.
You're not the first person to say that.
No.
Oh, I won't be. Yeah, no. Wretched, but but I met some nice people. I got some nice opportunities out of it. It was an experience. And performing again. Talk about a level of challenge. You're like, okay, he's very tight. It was supposed to be 90 seconds. I think I got a lot less than that because of technical problems. But 6,000 people in Radio City Music Hall.
Wow.
That's the biggest crowd I've ever performed for, and breakneck speed. And the whole judging contest thing, it was of no interest to me at all. But I wanted to perform for a lot of people. I do get a charge out of if I'm not doing something, if I haven't been in front of people in a while, I do hunger for it. I like it. It's validating. I feel like it's my job to cheer people up as much as I can, or to make them experience this kind of, magic. Call it what you will. And so if I'm doing my job, I feel like, okay, at least I'm doing my bit to make the world a better place.
We're jumping all over the shop here because obviously we are quite conscious of time. But looking back at your career, is there any role that you're really proud of? The particular project you worked on, whether it may be you're that was a damn good day at the office. It doesn't have to just be one, but I'm just wondering if anything stands out to you.
I had an opportunity, this is many years ago now, 15 years ago or more, God, maybe 20. Anyway, I got to direct and do voices for a long series of audiobooks, short audiobooks, for a company called Galaxy Audio, who is the publisher of the writer L. Ron Hubbard, who wrote extensively in the 30s and 40s. Prior to Dianetics, prior to Scientology, he wrote fiction. He was a best-selling author of the day, along with Asimov and Ray Bradbury and these guys. But he wrote in a variety of genres. Some people don't know this, but he wrote Westerns. He wrote air adventure, sea adventure stories. He wrote, obviously, science fiction, obviously, fantasy, all these different mystery, terrific stories. And they were all short novellas that would fit into those little pulp books that were the Instagram of their day. They were these little pithy, tight, wonderful stories about adventures in Shanghai, and flying over the Tropic of Capricorn in a twin-engine biplane and struggling with the guys trying to, amazing stories. And the Westerns were very authentic. And he had lived a life that encompassed many of those things. He was a flyer. He was a pilot. He was a barnstorming pilot in the early days. He one of the first people to ever get a glider pilot's license. He had been in World War II, so he'd been a commander of naval vessels. He grew up in Montana, so he knew horses and cattle and all that stuff. He knew about a lot of stuff. So when he wrote these stories, they were very rich, and the characters were very rich. And I got to direct, some of the top voice actors in Hollywood who would dramatize these stories. They're still available, called Stories from the Golden Age, or Golden Age Stories from the Golden Age. Anyway, you can find it at Galaxy Audio. And I had more fun. And we would go in, and 5 or 6 actors. It's just like what everybody in voiceover expected their career to be like. Like, well, I'll go into a booth with 5 or 6 actors and we'll knock out this drama and we'll play vivid characters. These days, you're one guy in a booth and the characters are all kind of insane. And uh, anyway, I worked with Fred Tatasciore, Corey Burton, Rob Paulson, Nancy Cartwright. The list goes on. Michael Yurchak, Bob Casso, R.F. Daly, a million really great voice actors. And we did what we felt like we were put on this earth to do. Create, old prospectors who say, oh, I wouldn't go up there. Oh, no, well, Black Bart's up there. These kind of wonderful characters, broad characters, and really paint this vivid picture. And I did that for about a couple of years. Every week, it was a great opportunity. It was just delightful, and people still compliment me on them. They're a lot of fun, and then of course I got to cast myself in some roles here and there, which I definitely took full advantage of. So, learning to be a director, learning how to help other actors and help to create a cohesive narrative and tell a story that way was so satisfying. And then to perform also and to fit into that and to work with professionals and to see great professionals at work. I learned a lot. It was great.
Incredible. What an incredible career you have. And like I said, we've barely scratched the surface. I'd love to get you back on again in the future when you're a bit more free, when you're not as busy, because your stories are absolutely amazing, Jim. They really are.
Thank you. I'm so glad. That's very kind of you.
But before we do start wrapping up, is there anything you've got coming up that people can look forward to seeing coming up? God, tripped over.
Yeah. I got 2 things that I'll mention. I've got the video games and stuff. Of course, I can't really say, but there's those on the horizon. I've got a show I'm working on recurringly, which is Landman with Billy Bob Thornton and Demi Moore.
Oh, amazing.
And Sam Elliott's on the show now too. So that's
what
I don't have any scenes with him yet, but I did work. So that starts up, I think, on Paramount Plus November 16th, I think. So I've got a couple episodes that are quite fun. And then there's a movie that I have a featured role in that's going to be a lot of fun called Hungry. And that's coming out in 2026. And it was directed by a countryman of yours, James Nunn, who's quite a good film director, young guy, lovely guy. And we worked and shot last year at this time. We were getting ready to shoot in Malta. So we were down in Malta shooting this adventure survival thriller about a bunch of vacationers in the Louisiana Bayou, which we were using Malta to fill in for that. The Louisiana Bayou that are menaced by a ravenous hippopotamus.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Was not expecting that.
Like it's Jaws with a hippo, and it'll come out in 2026. It's called Hungry. So go and see Hungry.
Hungry hippos. That's brilliant. Okay. Superb. Mr. Stevens, do you have any more questions for our wonderful guest?
I was going to say, Jim, thank you so much for your time, my friend. I really, really appreciate you taking 45 minutes out of your day to sit and chat to us Brits. So it's massively appreciated.
What part of England are you in, you guys?
I'm right next to London.
Oh, okay, very good.
And I'm in Birmingham.
Birmingham, yes, Birmingham.
For God's sake. I can't even escape it from people not in this country. God damn it.
The secret's out. Well, it's been a great interview. Thank you so much. It's lovely spending time with you both. I'd be happy to come back again sometime and talk
Amazing.
Yes,
other chapters and categories.
That sounds wonderful, Jim. Thank you so much, and I hope you have an absolutely glorious day, sir.
You betcha. All right. And anybody who wants, get that free show, jimmeskimen.com. Happy to send it to you.
Jim, thank you, my friend. Take care of yourself. All right, we'll speak soon.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, my friend.
Thank you so much, Jim.
See you later. Bye-bye.